Right, let's work our way quickly through these questions. So it's going to be a non-calculator paper that we need to deal with. So first one, simplifying. So I've got an expression here which has got y's in. That's a y term, that's a y term. Then I've got an x term and an x term. So I've got 17y, take away 9y. So on the number line, I'm starting at 17 and I'm subtracting 9. So I'm going to end up at 8y. And then with the x's, I'm starting at minus 3 and I'm going down another 5. So I'm starting at minus 3, taking off 5. I'm going to end up at negative 8 minus 8x. For the second one, it's an equation. So I've got 2x minus 3 equals 12. The first thing I need to get rid of is the minus 3 by doing the opposite, which is adding 3. If I add 3 to that side, I have to do the same to the other side. So the 2x plus nothing is just 2x. Minus 3 plus 3 is 0, equals 15. Then to get the x on its own, I have to undo the times 2 by dividing by 2, which means I have to divide that by 2 as well. 2 divided by 2 is 1x. Put 1 in there or not, it doesn't matter. Equals, and 15 doesn't go into 2 exactly, so you could just leave it as a fraction of 15 over 2, or because you know it's 7.5, you can do that, that's fine. So that's A, that's B. Part C, calculate the value of 6h plus 2g when h is negative 3 and g is 5. So when you're replacing a letter with a number, it stops being algebra and starts being arithmetic. So at that point I have to put in the multiply. So instead of h, it's times negative 3, and instead of g, it's times 5. 6 times 3 is 18, plus times a minus, the signs are different, the answer is negative. 2 times 5 is 10, the signs are both positive. So on my number line now, I'm down at negative 18, I'm going up 10 spaces, I end up at negative 8. Question 2. Are these statements true or false? The expression h times h times h times h can be written as 4h. Now, if you're not sure what to do with that, replace the h with a number. Let's say 2. So if h was 2, that would be 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. 2 2s are 4, 4 2s are 8, 2 8s are 16. So that would be 16. 4h would be 4 times 2, which is 8. They're not the same, so h times h times h can't be written as that, so it's false. What it should have been is h to the power of 4. When you're multiplying something by itself, it's to the power of. The expression 8x take away x can be written as 8. Well, 8x take away 1x is 7x. But if you're not sure, make x 2. So 8 times 2 take away 2 is 16, take away 2 is 14. It's not 8, so that's false. G over 5 divided by g is a fifth. So if g is 2, let's keep using 2 every time. 2 over 5 divided by 5 is a fifth. Is that true or false? This is the hardest one to figure out, okay? But if you imagine, if we're dividing something into fifths, what's that going to look like? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Imagine that I'd drawn that a bit better, and each of those, if those are fifths, the slices would look the same. So I'm saying take 2 fifths, so 2 fifths is that, and if I divide that by 5, so that means I'm going to split that now into 5 slices. Each of those is a fifth. Well, clearly it's not, because a fifth is bigger. So it's false. It's a hard one to explain. If it had been on a calculator allowed paper, that would have been easier to do. And then with this one, if I've got b over 3 plus b over 3, then actually what I end up with is 2b over 3, because you can only add them when the numbers on the bottom, the denominators are the same. So b over 3 plus b over 3 is actually 2b over 3, it's not b. If you want to put b as 2, like we've done with every other one, then what we get is 4/3, which isn't 2. So in fact all of those are false. Oh no, I got another one here. When g is 1, h is 2 and k is 3, then 1 plus 2 plus 3, GHK, we're in algebra, so that means we're multiplying. So I've got 1 plus 2 is 3 plus 3 is 6, 1 times 2 is 2, 2 times 3 is 6. That is true. Okay, so if you're not sure, change the letter to the number 2, work out what it is, and then compare. Question 3, context. Sarah, Laura and Steph go shopping for vegetables together. Sarah buys 3 broccoli and 1 cabbage for £2.44. Laura buys a cabbage for £1.56. Steph buys 5 broccoli and 2 cabbage. How much change does she receive from £10 when paying for 5 broccoli and 2 cabbage? So what you've got here is a series of clues which would turn into equations if you wanted to make them algebra, but we can figure this out without algebra. So I know that the cabbage costs £1.56. So if I take £1.56 off this, then that would leave me the price of 3 broccoli. So 3 broccoli, so if I do £2.44, take away £1.56, so I can't take 6 from 4, so I take 6 from 14, which is 8. I can't take 5 from 3, so I take 5 from 13, which is 88. So the 3 broccoli cost 88 pence. Now the problem we got here is that when we made up this question, what we would now do is, so 3 broccoli cost 88 pence. We would now have to work out what 1 broccoli was. So to do that, we divide by 3. But 88 doesn't divide by 3 very nicely. So the question breaks down a little bit here. Here's one I prepared earlier. If you do 88 divided by 3, you get 29.33 pence. The question you'll get in the exam will work. Okay, so 1 broccoli is going to be 29 pence. So Steph buys 5 broccoli and 2 cabbage. So the 5 broccoli equals, and again I'm going to cheat here now because just to make it quicker, 5 lots of 29 is £1.45. The 2 cabbage is £3.12. So the change from £10 will be 10 take away £1.45 take away £3.12. So 10 take away £1.45 take away £3.12, which is £5.43. So there's the answer. Okay, so the problem we had there was that when we invented that question, we didn't think it through carefully enough. But the steps are the important thing for the algebra. You know what 1 cabbage is, so you take it off that line, and that will leave you the cost of 3 broccoli. Once you know the cost of 3 broccoli, you divide by 3, and that will give you the cost of 1 broccoli. Once I know the cost of 1 broccoli, I know 1 broccoli and 1 cabbage, I can then work out how much 5 and 2 would come to. That may not seem like algebra to you, but it is. Question 4. The perimeter of the triangle is 30 centimeters. The perimeter of the rectangle is also 30 centimeters. Use this information to find the area of the square below. So the perimeter is the distance around the outside, and we can see that each of those is the same length A. So if the perimeter of that is 30, each of those must be 30 divided by 3, which is 10. So I know that that is 10, that is 10, and that is 10. Which then means I know that that is 10, and that is 10. So for the rectangle, the perimeter of that is also 30. Those are equal, which means that that must be 5, and that must be 5. So I got 10 and 10 is 20, 25, 30. So the area of the square, I know the square is a 5 by 5 square, and for area, we do length times width. So the area is going to be 25 centimeters squared. Okay, so I've got enough information there to find A. Once I know A, I've got enough information in there to find B. Once I know B, I can work out the area, as long as I can remember the formula for the area of a square. Question 5, sequence. Write down the next 2 numbers. So we're looking to see what's happening. This isn't an nth term question, it's just what are the next numbers in the pattern. So this one is dropped by 1, this one's dropped by 3, this one's dropped by 5, so the next gap is going to be 6, which means that is 10, and the next gap is 7, which means that is going to be 3. Okay, so you're looking with sequence questions at what what's happening in the gap between the numbers. Question 6, expand, means you want to get rid of the bracket. So you need to do 7 times 2y, and then 7 times 3. So you're multiplying whatever's outside the bracket by every term that's inside. 7 3s are 21. The outside is positive because there's no sign there. Inside is negative. Signs are different. Answer's negative. Question 7, we've got a multi-stage equation, so I'll create a bit of space. Okay, so the first thing I'll do is deal with the fact I've got x's on both sides by taking 2x off that side. If I take 2x off that side with an equation, I have to do the same to the other side. 7x take away 2x is 5x. That plus 4 doesn't change. 2x take away 2x is 0. That plus 6 doesn't change. Now I want to get rid of the plus 4 by doing the opposite, which is take 4. If I do it to one side, I have to do the same to the other. 5x plus nothing is 5x. 4 take 4 is nothing. 6 take 4 is 2. To get the x on its own, I have to break the times 5 by dividing by 5. If I divide that by 5, I have to do the same on this side. 5 divided by 5 is 1, so I got my 1x, or just x. And 2 divided by 5 doesn't go in exactly, so just leave it as a fraction, 2 over 5. So that's question 7. Question 8 is a quadratic graph, And what I tell you to do here is, first of all, even though they want you to complete the table, it's always worth plotting the points they give you, because it'll give you an idea about what your answer should be. So I've got -2, 5, -1, 0, 0, -3, so that's 2.5, so it's going to be one little square below that, and you have to be accurate with these, you can't be slapdash. 1, -4, so that will be 2 squares below that. Okay, each square is half a unit. Then 2 is -3, which is there. 3 is 0. 4 is 5. And we need to work out what that is. Now my U shape is going to take it up there. So I'm looking for something between probably 10 and 15 to follow that sweep of that curve. So what we do is we take our rule, but instead of having x in it, we're going to smash the x and drop in the number 5. Same again here, smash the x, drop in the 5, take away 3. 5 squared is 25. 2 5s are 10. Negative, positive, signs are different. Answer's negative. -3. So 25 minus 10 is 15. 15 minus 3 is 12. So that was where I was expecting it to be. So those are the points. Remember, you're going to draw a smooth curve, use a pencil, turn it around so your wrist is doing the curve work for you. So you don't use a ruler, you draw it freehand, so it looks like that. There's 1 mark for plotting the points and 1 mark for drawing the smooth curve. And then there's a bit on the end. Write down the values of x where the line y equals 3 cuts the curve. So the line y equals 3 goes through the y coordinate of 3. The y coordinate of 3 is here. So everywhere on this line, wherever you are, the y coordinate will be 3. So there would be -1, 3, there would be 0, 3, there would be 2, 3, and so on. And they want you to write down the value of where the line and the curve cross. So that's one value there, which is going to be -1.7. And then the other value here, which is going to be 3. Oh, you couldn't see, sorry. The other value will be there, so I've drawn the line down, which will be 3.7. And again, you need to be as accurate in your measurement or your readings as possible. Question 9. A hedge cutting firm uses the following formula to calculate how much they should charge customers. So £2 per 10 metre length plus the cost of fuel. How much would the firm charge a farmer for cutting 640 metres of hedge? So he needs to buy 640, but they come in 10 metre lengths. So the first thing we need to do is work out the number of lengths, which will be 640 divided by 10, which will be 64. So it's £2 for every 10 metre length. So £2 for every 10 metre length, plus the cost of fuel, which will be 12. 2 lots of 64 is 128, plus 12 is going to be £140. Okay, you need to look out what extra little bit of work you've got to do to be able to use your formula. The one we did in class earlier was to do with time, remember, that's on the nutshell. A town council was charged £205 to cut the hedges in the local park. The cost of the fuel used was 15. How many metres of hedge were cut? So I know the charge, 205. That's going to equal 2 times the lengths. So let's call that L, we don't know what it is, plus the cost of fuel, which is 15. Okay, so I'm just using that formula, putting in what I know. The total cost, total charge was £205. I don't know the lengths, that's what we got to work out, but I do know that that was 15. I get the L, so first of all, I'm going to take off 15. If I take 15 off there, I've got to do the same there. So we're working as if it's an equation. That's going to be 190, and that's going to be 2 times L. So 2 lots of the length is going to be that. I want 1 lot of length, so I'm going to divide by 2, which means I've got to divide that by 2. So the number of lengths will be, oh my god, I got brain dead, 95. So he buys 95 lengths. Does that answer the question? No, because he doesn't want to know how many lengths, he wants to know how many meters. So 95 lengths, 95 times 10 meter lengths will be 950 meters. Go through that again. I know the charge is 205. I know the 2 times the number of lengths. I don't know the number of lengths. I've called it L. You can call it whatever you like. Plus the cost of fuel, which is 15. Take the 15 off each side, leaves me 190, 2 times the length. Okay, so the cost of the lengths was £190. How many of them are there? 95. Each of those 95 lengths measure 10 meters. So in total, 95 times 10 is 950. Question 10. Factorizing. 2 different types. This is a common factor. It's not a quadratic because it's not in the form x number. So I'm looking for common things. I can see I can divide by 2 because 2 goes into 8 and 2 goes into 2. And I can see that I can there's a y in there as well. If you find it helps, you can write it out in full. So 8 I can write as 2 times 4 times y times y. Okay, so I've written 8y squared, 2 times 4 times y. The second bit I can write as 2 times x times y. So I'm looking to see what's in both. So I can see that I got a 2 in both, and I can see that I've got no more than 1 y. And then I can work out what's left. Well, I got a 4y left from the first term, and I've just got the x left from the second term. Then check. You know how to expand brackets. So I've got 2 times 4 is 8, y times y is 8y squared. 2 times y times x is 2xy. I know I'm right. When you are working with quadratics, if it helps, we'll put the 1 in there. First thing to spot is right. In order to work this out, I'm going to have a double bracket. Okay, recognize that. You've got to recognize if you've got x squared, x number, you're going to have a double bracket. Next thing you do is list your factor pairs of number that's at the end. So factor pairs of 12. Don't worry about the signs, just deal with 12. So it's 1 times 12, or it's 2 times 6, or it's 3 times 4. The next one will be 4 threes, which is just repeating. So I know that I've got all the factor pairs there. And I have to choose the factor pair that I can make add up to -1 by right signs with it. Well, there's no way the gap between 1 and 12 is going to make it add up to 1, neither from 2 or 6, so it must be 3 and 4. If they're both positive, I'd end up with 7. If they're both negative, I'd end up with -7 when I add them together. I want to get -1. If 4 was positive and 3 was negative, I'd end up with +1. So the only way I'll end up with -1 is if I've got +3 -4. Because if on my number line I'm at +3, I take 4 off, I end up at -1. If you'd have written x minus 4, x plus 3, that would be right as well. But the signs have to be connected correctly to those. So that's the factorise part. If they ask you to solve the equation, like they do here, what you've then got to do is work out what value of x would make that bracket 0. Because if that bracket is 0, it doesn't matter what happens in there, because anything times 0 is 0. So to make that 0, x would be -3, because -3 plus 3 is nothing. So that's one way you could make it equal 0. And the other way you could make it equal 0 is if that one was to equal 0, and for that to happen, x would be 4, because 4 take away 4 makes that 0. So that's a grade B factorize and solve question. It's like the lower level equations. Okay, but it's good to practice, it's quick to learn, and you know it's coming up. Question 11. The following table contains sequences together in an expression for the nth term. In each case, complete the table. The first row has been completed for you. So we know with this one that it's going up in sixes. So it's a 6n rule. And to get from 6 to 4, I've got to take 2 off. With this one, I know the rule. So the light is reflecting, isn't it? I know the rule. I've got to work out, first of all, the first term will be when n is 1. So 8 times 1 is 8, take away 3 is 5. For the second term, n is 2. 8 times 2 is 16, take away 3 is 13. Third term, 8 3s, 3 8s are 24. 24 take away 3 is 21. Fourth term, 4 8s,